Our first panel of the afternoon, Immediate Crisis Management, and the moderator is Jon Simon, Director of the Center for Global Health and Development and Chairman of the Department of International Health. Jon?
You know, I've had a lot of tough assignments at Boston University. Following R.D. Saul as a moderator has to rank as one of the tougher assignments, and I appreciate his exceptional job this morning in running the session. The session that we'd like to do this afternoon moves us along a little bit to not only the generation of the story and the choice of the story, but how that story gets out, and how you actually report out from an immediate crisis. And we will have 4 panelists. I'll follow the format that we did previously. I'll ask each panelist to come up and request that they stick pretty much to the time available to them. And then at the completion of the 4th panelist, I'll ask our panelists to come up and we'll have a question and answer period. So the first member of our panel is Donna Leinwand, who is a reporter for USA Today, which I was noting is the largest daily circulation paper. And we were talking about the importance or the differences between print media and electronic media. She's covered a variety of things, war and terrorism, but the thing that caught my eye, and I'm a public health guy, so I follow statistics. She told me she'd cover 20 hurricanes. And I wonder if you and Barry Bonds hold the record of having the most of something in the Guinness Book of Records, because 20 hurricanes sounds like quite a lot. So, Ms. Leger.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm in the business of truth and accuracy, so I'm gonna have to set the record straight. As of 2 weeks ago, we are no longer the largest circulation daily newspaper. That would go to the Wall Street Journal, but we're close. We'll try and catch up. Also, I am now at 32 hurricanes. That was a slightly old bio, but I didn't take any performance-enhancing drugs to do it. So, let me tell you a little story about one Christmas that I spent. So it was Christmas, and I'm at a party, and I'm having a drink, because it's Christmas. And I get a text message from the U.S. Geological Survey. And I subscribe to things like the U.S. Geological Survey because I'm a little geeky. And they tell me that there has been an earthquake in the Indian Ocean. And it's a big one. But, it's the Indian Ocean, and sometimes they're deep, and sometimes they're shallow, and whatever. But I'm a curious kind of girl, so I go and I go onto the website just to see what's going on, and all of a sudden I'm seeing tsunami warnings. And then I'm hearing some reports that the Red Cross and other people can't get in touch with anyone on an island called Sumatra, on the northern tip of Sumatra in a place called Aceh. Now, Aceh is not a tourist destination. Nobody goes like, hey, what do you think this year, Key West or Aceh? It's kind of a poor place. It has a civil war going on. It's not like, a beachfront destination. So there aren't a lot of people there. There aren't a lot of Westerners there. There isn't a lot of media there. There's probably no media there. And so we didn't hear anything for a while. And it's Christmas, and as you can imagine, USA Today is not exactly very well staffed. We appear to have an intern working in the news desk. So I call her, and she doesn't know where, Sumatra is. She doesn't even know what country it belongs to. So I work her through this, but at this point, I don't even think it's a big deal. I said, look, I think there's keep your eye on this, call the big editors if it gets worse. And at this point, they're saying 300 people dead. Well, the next day is Boxing Day. And I go home after my Christmas party, having had a bit of eggnog, and I pull my gear out. And like a previous speaker, Jane, I have my gear ready, and I have kind of 3 different sets of gear depending on, what my wardrobe's going to be. I have, warm weather gear, I have cold weather gear, I have desert gear, I have tropical, mosquito-infested climate gear, that kind of thing. So I pull out what I think I'm going to need for Indonesia, and I wait for the call. And it comes way more quickly than the first call I get is from an editor saying, well, I don't know if this is big yet, so stand by. the next call I get an hour later is, how quickly can you get to the airport? So I got to the airport with my gear, and this being Christmas, we can't find a photographer. We take one from the Military Times, who, you think Military Times, he's kind of been around the world. First trip out of the United States, except for like a trip that he had taken with his wife to the Bahamas. So he's a little nervous. So I'm at the airport, and I don't have a ticket to anywhere. I'm just at the airport. And so I call the Navy, because I think they're probably going to be the first to respond. They tend to have ships in that area. I'm like, hey, what you guys doing with this tsunami thing? And they tell me that they think they're going to stage out of Utapao, Thailand, which is a Vietnam-era base. Well, it's a Thai Air Force base, but during the Vietnam War, the U.S. had a presence there, and they still have a hangar. So they're going to stage out of Utapao. They're like, get yourself to Utapao. If we can if we figure out what we're doing by then, you can come along with us. Great. So I fly from Washington, D.C. to Chicago, to San Francisco, to Narita, Japan, to Bangkok. Get into Bangkok around midnight, hire a driver, and then drive about, 3 hours south to Utapao. And on the way, I stop at a Carrefour, which is a French grocery store, and I buy 11 dozen donuts. Anyone want to guess why I need 11 dozen donuts to cover an earthquake and tsunami? Bribery. We like to call it in our expense reports taxi cab. But I know that the quickest way to the military's heart is through donuts. So we drive down to Utapao, and I get onto the base by giving these very nice Thai soldiers a dozen donuts. And then I find the U.S. hangar by giving another Thai airman donuts. And then I get past the 18-year-old, private who's guarding the door of the hangar with 2 boxes of donuts. He's American, drives a very hard bargain. And then I get to the front of the line with the colonel, and that took me like 3 boxes of donuts. I had to feed like the entire corpsman, like the whole place. But they let me onto a C-130. And at this point, by the way, I have no power. I have been filing, and I've been on my phone, and no power. So I'm trying to charge up and getting as much power as I can. And I get on the C-130, and of course there's no room for me. Anyone know what a C-130 is? A big cargo plane. And they've got Humvees in there and pallets of water and cranes. I mean, it's a huge plane. And the soldiers sit on kind of canvas slings along the wall. And they take a look at me and they're like, you're small, we're gonna seat you in the Humvee. So they strap me into the Humvee, and that is how I flew to a place called Medan, Indonesia. Oh, by the way, this is my biggest advice for foreign correspondents. Take notes. See a bathroom, use a bathroom. Repeat after me. See a bathroom, use a bathroom, okay? No bathrooms on a C-130. The guys pee out of something called a pee tube. The girls, they give you a bucket. And if it's a really nice C-130, there's a shower curtain that you can, yeah. So anyway, that's like my chief advice for foreign correspondents. Anyway, we get to Medan, Indonesia, which is the capital of Sumatra, and there ain't nothing there. I mean, this is like an airport. The terminal is like the size of this room. And we are sitting there arguing while like the military argues with the Indonesians about whether they're going to be allowed to bring in aid, because the U.S. was not getting along with Indonesia. But finally, we get to Aceh, and we land on a landing strip, and it was a strip. I mean, there were water buffalo grazing on the side of the landing strip, and it is 4 o'clock in the morning, and I have no power. And who here knows what they speak in Indonesia? Bahasa. Every time I've told this story before, and you are the first person ever to know what they speak in Indonesia. And I will assure you that I had no idea what they speak in Indonesia. And it's 4 o'clock in the morning, so I set up my tent next to the U.S. Marines, because I think, hey, the U.S. Marines. Turns out they got there last and had the worst spot, and they were like next to the open-air latrines. The Australians got there first, because, duh, they're closer. I should have thought about that. And the Germans got there next, because, duh, they're closer. And so I was with the Marines, who also forgot a generator. So I had to beg the Germans for power. So here I am in Indonesia, and I have to get this story out. What do you guys think my biggest concern is? Is it the journalism? Will I not be able to find the story? Hell no, the whole place has collapsed. I mean, it's flooded, everyone's dead, there are bodies washing through the river, plenty in journalism. My biggest concern at this point is communications. How do I charge up my phone? How do I charge up my computer? Once I've gotten my computer charged out, how do I send it home? You know, is my satellite dish going to work? Where am I going to get power for my satellite dish? These are the kind of things that you have to worry about when you're covering a disaster. You have to be able to feed yourself. You have to be able to get yourself water. You have to be able to put up a tent. You have to be able to heat up your MRE. It's very embarrassing if you don't know how to cook your own MRE and you have to ask a soldier to do it for you. And you have to be able to communicate somehow. I travel with a cell phone, a satellite phone, something called a BGAN, which is like a regional satellite, tiny little satellite dish. And a lot of these planes have weight limits. So I usually have only, you know, a few very ugly items of clothing with me because all of my backpack is taken up by communications gear. So the biggest challenge for reporting out of Indonesia actually became finding ways to get power because there was no power on the entire island other than generators brought in by the military. And then this, you know, it was hard to get satellite connections because the bandwidth was sort of filling up with the military using it and all that kind of thing. I mean, it was a total nightmare. So I was getting great stories that then I couldn't communicate. So similar incident in Haiti. I got to Haiti 21 hours after the earthquake. That's an easy place to go. And I had my satellite phone and I had my BGAN. Anyone want to guess what worked? My iPhone. My iPhone does not work in my apartment in Washington. It worked in Haiti. My satellite dish was not working because there were mountains apparently blocking the satellite. So I had to I was lying on the ground. People were like, are you praying to Mecca or what? I was lying on the ground in a parking lot in Haiti trying to get my satellite phone to connect with an actual satellite to get an angle above the mountains. So that is, you know, basically one of the huge challenges, again, is communication. And I'm out of time, so I'll talk to you about communicating with the public and getting translators and that during the question and answer period. But, you know, the journalism really not as hard as the actual communications. So there you go.